There are many notable and influential actors and actresses of the 1920s, both in silent and talking films. The most prominent people include Charlie Chaplin, Clara Bow, Constance Bennett, Max Schreck, and Anna May Wong. Charlie Chaplin was an English actor, filmmaker, and composer. He was best known for his humorous and animated acting styles in silent films. Some of these films criticized U.S. political action through satire, a concept that was not previously used or accepted at the time. His most notable acting role was the tramp in The Kid, a movie about a man who finds a child and fights to keep him. Chaplin is a name that is used in the movie industry to this day. Clara Bow was an American actress known as Hollywood's first it girl, likely given to her because of her embodiment of the flapper look. She was adored by many because she didn't pretend to be aristocratic, which the public could often relate to. Her rise to fame came from silent films, but talkies made her even more prominent in the growing world of film. Her most famous works include It, Wings, and The Wild Party. Constance Bennett was an American stage, film and radio, and television actress and producer. Her independence and outspokenness often got her into conflicts, which, although criticized by many, only fueled her growing fame. Bow was one of the highest paid actresses of her time, and her role in What Price Hollywood made her most famous. German actor Max Schreck was one of the most influential actors in horror films for his role as Count Orlok in the silent film Nosferatu. His role inspired later horror films, including Willem Dafoe's Shadow of the Vampire. At the time, some people really believed he was a vampire. His contributions to the early stages of the genre greatly shaped later forms. Anna May Wong is recognized as the first Chinese actress in Hollywood. Her role in The Thief of Baghdad was what launched her career and is one of her best-known works. She turned down many roles portraying her as the exotic seductress, a theme that was common for many Asian American women at the time. Her hard work created the path for many other Asian Americans in the business. All in all, as you can see, these actors and actresses were extremely influential in the world of cinema. Without them, we cannot imagine what the film industry would look like today.
The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. This film is influential due to its set design, which was part of the German Expressionism film movement, which was also called Caligariism, and was an inspiration for Tim Burton's style. Another way the film is inspirational is due to the fact that it was one of the first films with an unreliable narrator, Nosferatu. This film is the oldest existing vampire film and is an unofficial adaptation of Dracula. Due to the fact that it was unofficial, the wife of Bram Stoker tried to have all copies of the film be burnt. Thankfully, most copies have survived, otherwise this would be a lost film, just like a majority of silent films. The Jazz Singer. This is the first talking film, aka talkie. This film, however, only has a few sound scenes, the rest of it is silent. The film also has some moments of blackface in it, which is unfortunately a very common theme of entertainment at the time. Metropolis. Probably one of the most influential films of all time. Its roots can be found in Star Wars, Blade Runner, Frankenstein, and King Kong. It has basically influenced every sci-fi and fantasy film throughout history. Similarly, it was also inspired by classic stories and myths such as the Seven Deadly Sins and the Tower of Babel, which was used to communicate the difference between the working class and the people in charge.
To start off, something that I personally thought was pretty interesting was the movie studios that were huge back then. You have Warner Bros., which is now owned by AT&T, Paramount, who is now owned by Viacom-CBS, RKO Pictures, which isn't really a thing, but their movies were sold off to Warner Bros., Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, or MGM, owned by Amazon, Fox, which is now owned by Disney, Universal Studios, which is now owned by Comcast, United Artists, bought by MGM, and Columbia, now owned by Sony. And more of these buyouts and mergers are still happening, with theories of Apple possibly buying Viacom-CBS and other huge companies trying to merge together as well. On our current path, there will be less and less film studios until there's probably just one big conglomerate, but overall we will still have all those old movies, and it is kind of interesting to see how we have gone from 8 major movie studios, and now we are down to 6. Another thing that I learned was a fun tradition that still goes on to this day, and that is handprints in Hollywood. This might not make sense at first, but trust me, it's honestly pretty cool. Any famous celebrities, if approved by a guy named Grauman, would be able to get a cement imprint of their hands in front of his theater, Grauman's Theater. Now, this would be a huge honor and doesn't happen that much to this day because, they ran out of space. They do have that walk down the street with all the stars on it, like for famous people, but that's essentially it. And it might sound kind of weird, but yeah, it's pretty hard nowadays to actually be able to get hand imprint in front of Grauman's Theater. One final thing, and this is an invention that was used in the 1920s, was the use of sound and how the first ever sound movie was in the 1920s. Basically what they did was they would get a phonograph, basically a record, and they would record someone's voice. And what they do is that they'd sync it over the movie and then play it over the movie. And people were absolutely astounded by this. People were blown away. And fun fact, studios actually thought that movies with sound, they thought that they would never work themselves out, and they thought that silent movies would always be the thing. But the moment that people heard the very first sound picture, the jazz singer, they were blown away and absolutely loved it. In 6 years, we will have our anniversary of the jazz singer, 100 years of sound movies.